Welcome to River Styx Nonfiction Q&A series, RSNF. I'm Claire Walla, nonfiction editor at River Styx, and I'm joined by River Styx assistant editor Matt Torralba Andrews. Today we're speaking with our guest, Yelizaveta Renfro, about her essay, The Night Follows Close, which readers and listeners can find in River Styx's latest print issue, number 109, Posthuman. Yelizaveta, or Lisa, is the author of the essay collection Xylotech, published by University of New Mexico Press, and the short story collection A Catalog of Everything in the World from Black Lawrence Press. Her writing has appeared in Alaska Quarterly Review, Blue Mesa Review, Colorado Review, Glimmer Train, North American Review, Orion, Witness, and elsewhere. Lisa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
Your essay begins and ends with your 3-week artist residency in the Porcupine Mountains in Michigan, and your experience of darkness, including the dark skies in those mountains, which might lead readers to believe that the inspiration for the essay was at that residency. But the topics of your essay are range from the role of technology in people's lives to the haunting presence of your Aunt Susan and Olga in your dreams. We were wondering if you can share if the inspiration for your essay happened actually within the confines of that residency, or these are sort of ideas that you've been mulling over.
I think I absolutely was mulling over a lot of those topics before I went to the Porkies. I think that a lot of the thinking came before I went to the Porkies, and then the actual researching and writing came after the Porkies. So not a lot of the essay was written while I was in the Porkies. I think that some of the topics that I go into in the essay, for example, the effects of technology, are things that I've been thinking about for a long time. I've written about it before, but not as extensively. So I was artist in residence. Prior to the Porkies, I was artist in residence at Isle Royale National Park, which is also in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It is an island in Lake Superior. I was there for 3 weeks, and I was cut off from email, internet. And so I had started thinking about it then. And maybe even earlier, I was artist in residence in Denali National Park. So I spent some time in Fairbanks and in Denali National Park. And the same thing there, it was really difficult to connect to the internet or, have that connection to the outside world. And so I think those are topics I have been thinking about for a long time. My aunts, who figure prominently in the essay, died in 2016 and 2020. So I had been thinking about them as well, and I had been writing about them or trying to write about them. There's actually a section of my essay that begins on page 129, and it begins, I have been writing this essay for 18 months. I have read 27 books about darkness and night and sleeping and dreaming. And there's a part of that that I actually cut that didn't make it in the final essay. But it actually, let's see if I have it here. It says, elsewhere I have written over 86,000 words about Susan since she died. Elsewhere, I have written over 38,000 words about Olga since she died. I have perhaps been writing about them my whole life. In that sense, I have been writing this essay my whole life. And I ended up cutting that out. But I think that's sort of a reflection of how the essay absolutely extends beyond the boundaries of the 3 weeks that I was in the Porcupine Mountains. I think that the Porkies allowed me to sort of lasso all these subjects together and to make them cohere, or at least try to, because I think sometimes if you're writing an essay of ideas, you need a setting, you need an event, you need those geographic and temporal boundaries, or else it doesn't all hold together. So I think that's really what the Porkies provided for me.
At the end of the first section, you write, what if rather than being a diminished state, darkness is an enhanced state wherein we access subterranean parts of ourselves? From here, we enter a dream state with you in which you consider the fact that what we're often able to access in the darkness at night is creativity. Daylight, on the other hand, becomes a metaphor for more rational and empirical thought. As we read your essay, we kept thinking about how this dichotomy, day versus night, rational versus creative, is inherent to the writing process. Creative writers typically need both inspiration and a sense of structure. So we wonder, how did this dichotomy play out for you as you wrote this essay? And was this process different from the writing processes you went through for any of your previous writing?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. I think that I often want to rely on like the rational part of myself, um, because I think it feels safer in a way. I think that for this essay, I really had to sort of let go of that and just give the creative process free rein because I didn't really know what I was doing as I was doing it. There's a section in the essay where I say most of the time my own writing is dominated by the rational, the empirical, right? Perhaps poetry more than any other genre is the most direct conduit to our dream selves, and the fact that I am not a poet shows my affinity for the light of day, which I think is very true. I don't write poetry, or I've written very little poetry, and it's not a genre I feel comfortable in. And so even though this essay isn't poetry, it sort of felt like I had to let myself, my poet self, if you will, sort of come out and make those wild associations or allow those juxtapositions to happen that poets sort of naturally come to in their work. And I think part of it is because I actually was originally trained in journalism. I was a journalism major in college. I worked for daily newspapers and did reporting before I went back to school to do creative writing. And so, like, I feel like a lot of my training is all about controlling the information and telling the quote unquote truth. It was just like I was writing things, I was writing pieces, and I didn't know how they were all going to come together. So I definitely think the writing process for this was quite different from some of the other work that I've done in the past.
Your essay is on the longer side, so almost 50 pages, and there's this really beautiful roaming quality to it, whether it's just digressions of thought or like literally you're wandering, we're calling wandering through the forests at night. This roaming quality really feels integral to the essay. And so allowing it to go to strange, unexpected, really exciting places. And so did you know early on that this essay was going to be on the longer side?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into it, I had no idea how long it would be. I didn't even know what it would be. I think that, when I was in the Porkies, I didn't really know I was going to write this essay. I knew that I was taking a lot of notes, and a lot of the notes were about darkness. I think there might be like one note somewhere in my notebook where I'm like, essay about darkness, question mark. Like, think about this in the future. Originally, I thought I was just going to be a short little essay about darkness, right? I didn't have like a word count in mind, but I would have been surprised if it was over like 4,000 words when I first envisioned what it might be.
Well, we like to wrap up by asking all of our guests to make a nonfiction reading recommendation. So what's your recommendation?
Absolutely. Yes. A book that I recently read that is actually about darkness and that I really enjoyed. It came out in the latter part of 2024, so I actually hadn't read it when I wrote my essay. But it is called Night Magic: Adventures Among Glowworms, Moon Gardens, and Other Marvels of the Dark by Lee Ann Henyon. And it's a very deliberate project for her, where she sets out looking for life that flourishes in the night or in darkness. And she goes a lot of really fun places, like she goes to Mothapalooza in Ohio, where all the people hang out who want to see moths, basically. And so that was, sort of, it's a book I enjoyed, and it's same topic sort of that I'm writing about. So that's absolutely a book that I would recommend.